Hi family and friends, welcome back to Small Stuff Farm. Today I'm going to transplant my pineapple tree, bush, whatever you want to call it. I planted this actually from the scrap of the top of a pineapple that we ate, and now I'm going to transplant it because it's outgrown its pot. So I'm going to show you how we do that and how important it is to have good soil for these plants to continue to grow and eventually provide us with pineapple. Watch us now. So you can see this plant is beautiful, robust. It's grown very, very well. And remember, this came from the top of a pineapple that we ate from the store. And so this plant is really doing well, but it's outgrown its pot. So now I need to put soil into this pot and then transplant the plant. We're going to put about 6 or 8 inches of soil in here, maybe a little more depending on where this root ball ends up, and then we'll put dirt continually around it right up to the base here. You don't want to cover the leaves or the parts of the plant here, because you also, when you water, you never want the water to hit this plant. Rainwater is different, but when you're watering, you want it to go deep to the roots. So we're going to start with black cow, which is strictly good black manure to go in the bottom. This helps feed the plant, and it usually feeds it for several months. So I'm going to put that in here, and we're not even halfway full, so we're in good shape here. Followed by some of this gardening soil. Now this says for in-ground plants, and eventually this plant will go in the ground. So I don't worry too much about whether we're using a potting soil for in a pot like this or in ground. I just want the best, darkest soil I can get, and this is one of the darkest ones we have around. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to put a little more of this in, and then we're going to transfer the plant. So as you can see, this pot has multi-colors. And so what I did was I put the soil to this line because I want to have plenty of room for that root ball to go in there. So I'm going to pull as much soil apart as I can so that I can pull this plant out. And again, you have to be super, super careful when you do this. You want to make sure that you're very careful, not only so you don't break your other pretty pot, but so that you don't break off any of this plant. Any time that you break a piece of a plant, you cause it trauma. And that trauma can eventually kill the plant rather than help it. So we've got to be very, very careful as we tip this and slowly make its way out. So I've loosened the dirt all the way around, and now I'm going to gently, as best I can, reach underneath it to help roll it out. I don't want, again, to damage this plant. These are very, very particular about being handled. And we're still having a little bit of trouble. It's still kind of caught up here in the bottom because I did let it get a little too big for this pot. So the way we do this is we roll it and we loosen up this entire ball. And once we have it loose, we should be able to slide it right out and into its new home. We're going to take all this wet dirt that's here, put around it, and I am going to have to go a little deeper, so I'm going to have to set it aside a little bit, push underneath it, so that this ball goes down a little deeper. I just want to make sure that all the roots are covered with soil, and we are looking really good. I do try to center my plants, but it's not as important as making sure the entire root ball is all the way into the soil. By centering it, you're allowing that root more room all the way around it to expand. Now from here, I'm going to just take some of this dirt off of these leaves This one was already broken. That did not break in the process, and sometimes that happens as they get bigger, and I don't worry too much about it. I'm going to clean this off. I'm going to grab my soil, and I'm going to continue to fill this pot because I want that entire root ball covered, and I want to make sure it's covered with good healthy soil. So there you have it. I do have to sweep up some of the mess that I made, but I have now transplanted this beautiful pineapple tree bush, and hopefully those roots weren't bothered by it or shocked by it. I'll give it a little bit of water, and it does have a base under it to capture water because it will suck water up throughout its lifetime. Pineapple trees, bushes need a lot of water. You can't let them get dry. And so we'll check back in a week or two and see how she fared. Thanks, and we'll see you soon. God bless. Welcome back to Small Stuff Farm. In a previous video, I talked about how I take plants that are annuals and make them perennials. So I'm going to show you today, because these have dried out now, how I do that. So these plants are zinnias that were sent to us. You simply cut the plant that's dried. Now I won't cut the parts of the plants that are still having flowers because I like the flowers. And you simply lay these parts of the plant down into the planter. Not only do they feed whatever's still left in here, but they also next year will continue to produce, because these seed pods will continue to produce. These zinnias have now been here for 2 years, creating these beautiful flowers every year, because I prune them at fall, get all the dead ones back into my planter, and next spring I will have a plethora of these beautiful flowers again. Just cut them off, and I have these other plants growing, and now that they're not being covered by these, they're really coming alive, and they're just beautiful. But we're just going to continue to put these seed pods right back in here. I don't cover them with soil. I do make sure that they get water when these other plants get their water, and that's really all you have to do to turn annuals into perennials. So I'm going to leave the flowers that are still here. I took one because the rest of the plant was dead and made myself a pretty. But I'm only taking as much of the dead plant that has the seed pods on it. As you can see, I'm going to leave these flowers because they're lovely, and we still have butterflies and birds that will come and gather nectar for themselves, and I like to make sure that they have that available to them. But trimming it down, again, also helps these other plants to thrive better. They're also making seed pods here, and so once those dry, they'll go into the planter as well, and we will have just a plethora of beautiful flowers next spring. It's super simple, super effective, and I end up with these beautiful flowers year after year without having to buy seed, without having to do anything but prune just like I did. Thanks and God bless.